Hi everyone, welcome to Woolen Spinning. My name is Rachel and it is Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. She won't watch this, but I want to wish my sister-in-law a very happy birthday. It is her final year in her 30th decade, is that decade? Yeah, in her third decade, 30th, whatever it is. Anyways, it's her last year in her 30s. So I'm gonna wish her a happy birthday. Her, my brother, and my other sister-in-law are all the same age, so it's easy to keep track of their ages. And my best friend's born in that same year as well. Anyhow, welcome to episode 273. As I mentioned, my name is Rachel. I can be found on Instagram as Woolen Spinning. You can find me on Ravelry as Welford Pearls, which is my like username for stuff before the podcast sort of took over my life. And you can find everything that you need to find for like show notes and everything at welfordpearls.com or woolenspinning.com. We come here a couple of times a month to talk about all things making, all things hand spinning, and all things knitting with your hand spun. And it has been a hot minute since we got together and gathered and had a live stream, and that's because we were away. So we headed up to Jasper National Park in Canada. I am in the Pacific Northwest, just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And yeah, we dragged our trailer up there. We've got a small 18-footer, and we went up there for a week. We go all the time. Like whenever we can go anywhere and we can get away for more than just a few nights, we tend to go to Jasper. We had a great time. We took the kids whitewater rafting. It was so much fun, and the kids had a blast. Every day after that, they were like, can we go whitewater rafting? Can we go? We were like, yeah, it was a one-time thing this trip, maybe in the future. So that was really fun, and we did a couple other things. Took the kids to our favorite restaurant a couple of times, and tons of walking, tons of biking. I was going to do a big slideshow thing like I sometimes do about sort of what happens in our life here, but honestly, the show is already so long today, there is no way. So, yeah. What do we have going on today? I have a ton of stuff sitting here next to me. I've finished my combo spin. I've got to talk about that. I've got lots of spindle spinning to share with you. A new cast on that is well on its way. And of course, what I'm wearing. So I'm wearing my mini mock neck tank. I will tell you all about it later in the show. And I will link to the pattern for you. We'll do all the things. But I have to tell you something. So on my way home, the kids are at a day camp this week that's put on by one of the churches around here, and they go to this particular camp every year, and it's just a lovely camp, and it's the only camp that they do all summer that's all day. And so I dropped them off, and I had to peel back home right away, obviously, because I've got the podcast and the show. And I was driving, and out of habit, I've been turning off the radio recently when I've had the kids in the car, and it's just because of what's going on in the world. So Mike and I check the news, and we keep up with world events separately from when the kids are around and little ears are around, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of things that the kids are trying to understand, and it's hard sometimes. So, and you can't control what's coming out of the radio before it's being played, you know. So I was gonna turn the radio off as when I turned the car on, just out of habit, and I heard the words sheep shearing. And I was like, what? And so this is on CBC. It's a replay. I've heard it before, but I spent the entire drive home after dropping the kids off, listening to Peggy Orenstein talk about her new book, Unraveling. And I will link, I tried to link it in the live chat before I started just now so that you guys could find it, but it's the current on CBC Radio, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and you're looking for it just aired, so it's the very first segment in the podcast feed, and it's Peggy's interview with oh my gosh, his name is on the tip of my tongue, with Galloway. Oh my gosh, help me out. Canadian CBC listeners. Anyways, he's one of my favorite radio hosts. He's just an awesome interviewer. Anyways, they spent the whole time talking about carding wool, walking through cognitive decline in aging parents, and Peggy just did an awesome job on the interview. So I will link it in the show notes if you aren't able to find it yourself. It was a lovely way to drive home and a really good reminder of why I do what I do and why I do the podcast and everything. It was just totally kismet. It was at the right time, in the right moment, and I was wearing my outfit that I just finished, and I was wearing my shirt, and I was dropping the kids off, and my sister-in-law is over, and my brother are staying with my mom right now, and because their kids are going to the camp this week as well for the first time. And her daughter, who's the same age as Nora, my daughter, Nora and my sister-in-law, they were all so kind about my outfit and what I was wearing. And it was such a confidence booster, because you wear something for the first time and you start thinking, oh, maybe it's a little short, maybe it's a little colorful, maybe it's not quite right. And they were like, I want one. Like, that looks amazing. And without me even saying anything, like, I walked up and they all started gushing. And Nora had already been gushing, but she's my daughter, so it was so lovely. All right, we've got some stuff coming up on woolen spinning, so let's do the intro credits, and I will see you guys on the other side with all of the things that are going on this month. A thank you to our sponsor, Brother Drum Carder. They are dedicated to giving you the very best of carding products with a focus on quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. They are building mill processing equipment, so please stay tuned. Be sure to check out the new products on their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Brother Drum Carder. All right. Thank you for the kind compliments in the chat. You guys are always so kind. Amara was asking about the Attune shawl. So if anybody has started the Attune shawl, she was just wondering how long in centimeters or inches on the spine people are knitting before they start the garter stitches. If anybody has started theirs or has finished theirs, if you could chime in the live chat and let Amara know, that would be awesome. I haven't started mine yet because my yarn isn't plied. And I also need to pull out my natural shades kind of yarns in my stash to see what I want to use for the contrast color once I get things plied. So I hope I don't have to do more spinning, but I'm kind of wondering if I might need to do a bit more spinning, so we'll see. All right, let's talk about what is coming up in the community, and then we'll get on with the show. I'm sorry I have to always do this at the beginning of the show, but 2-3 weeks at a time between like our shows, a lot happens, and sometimes the only way for people to connect and to find out what's going on is through me going through all of this information every show. So I know it takes a couple of minutes. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking with it. Woolen Spinning Radio this month, I was able to sit down with Crystal Hesser, and for those of you who don't know who Crystal is, she is just a bombshell when it comes to hand spun and spinning and celebrating hand spun yarn and being really excited about textured yarn. Her and I have an exciting announcement coming up in October about sort of after the Attune shawl knit along, spin along is finished, we are going to do a textured yarn along for the remainder of the year for October, November, and December. So stay tuned for that. That will be coming up with Crystal. I'm super excited about that. For the Woolen Spinning Radio, that discussion with Crystal, that just find it on your favorite podcast provider. It's an audio podcast. You guys can find it anywhere. Google Play, Audible, Spotify, any of the places, iTunes, all the places. So the teaching content for this month is on simultaneous contrast. We're almost done the color contrast. I have to admit, I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm done with the color contrast. I'm good. But we just have a couple more months to finish them off and finish off that theory, which I think is important. That is coming on Thursday. And then the wool circle, Rebecca has been doing an incredible job of all things dyeing this summer. She's been walking you through her process, showing you what she's been doing. It's been incredible. We just had, yesterday I was just editing part 3 for the wool circle, which is where she goes through a reflection of all the things that she's done. And it is a pretty incredible episode. So look forward to that. next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. So just come to the same place at the same time. And if you're a wool circler, we will be chatting all things dyeing, which is really cool. So thank you to the wool circlers. If you're interested in joining the Patreon and sort of curious about all the things that happen here, you can sign up for a 1-week free trial as a wool circler and sort of absorb all the things and see if it's a fit for you within the community. The Slack channel is incredibly active and it just an unbelievably welcoming group of people, and I hope that you guys will think about jumping in on the free trial. That would be phenomenal. We'd love to have you. Oh, I'm so jealous, Diana. You're getting together with Kim McKenna this afternoon. That's amazing. I can't wait. That's awesome. I visited her as well, testing out her lazy cake. She told me that she had coffee with you, and that you guys she had shown you the prototype for her. I'll tell you guys about this later. What Diana and I are talking about. Coming up, Maker Morning. I wrote here that it's on Thursday, August 17th because it is, but it's also tomorrow morning. I had to cancel the one last Wednesday. It's usually the first Wednesday and the third Thursday of the month is Maker Morning, and I just mix up the days because I can't mix up the time at this stage of life. But I can mix up the day just to catch like different people with different schedules and whatnot. But last week Mike got called into work, so I had to postpone it. So it's tomorrow. So if you're a patron of the show, don't hesitate to jump into Maker Morning. That post will go up later today as a reminder. Spinning Staples is also tomorrow at 12 noon, and then of course we've got a fiber prep group, weaving group, virtual spin group, all that stuff happening at their regular times on Friday and Tuesday. So I hope you guys find something in a group that you're really excited about and a group that you can join in with that's exciting. I had alluded to the Attune shawl along that's going on right now. This is a spackle spin to knit. Attune, I can't believe how many people are making their Attune shawls. It's just awesome. Thank you so much, you guys, for participating. This is an Andrea Mowry pattern. You can jump in anytime. We are trying to finish off by September 15th. I don't know if I'll have my knitting done. I will for sure have the spinning done. That is a promise. So fingers crossed that I have some of the knitting. I'll for sure be started, but I don't know if I'll actually be done. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's jump into the show. So I have been doing a ton of spindle spinning. I have been spinning up just a ton, and a lot of it has been because, you know what, before we do this, let's do this properly. I always get mixed up. Let me do this properly. I think we're going to start off with spindling, and then we'll go into knitting, and I'll tell you all about this stuff. So I'll see you on the other side. So for spindling, I think I'll start off with talking about my suspended spindles. The reason why I'm pausing is because I have a video that I wanted to show you guys. So my suspended spindles, I pulled out because I was going to do my entire Attune shawl, the contrast color. I was going to do in this colorway in London Fog, which is by Fat Cat Knits. You can order it off her website. It's still a colorway that's available. And I had broken it up into all of these little nests of fiber, the first 2 ounces. And I was sort of planning on doing a 2-ply, but I have 6 ounces of fiber. So I kind of got thinking, well, as I'm spinning along, maybe I should do a 3-ply, and I could spin up 2 ounces, get that tucked away onto storage bobbins, and then I could spin the next 2 ounces, get that tucked away on storage bobbins, and then do the last 2 ounces and 3-ply. So I filled up my 2 favorite Bosworth spindles, and I was playing around with some of my other suspended spindles in my stash and stuff, but really I just love these 2 spindles, and I come back to them again and again and again. They're both, this one's about 20, I want to say like 22 grams, and this one's about 18 grams. And I ordered these years ago. Me and Chrissy of Snappy Stitches had ordered them. She had ordered a bunch. She ended up selling hers. She really isn't a spindle spinner. It's just not her favorite. And I just kept coming back to these again and again and again. And it's funny because if you look at them, let me just get rid of the second camera here so you can really see. If you look at them, they're all like banged up from like dropping and being banged up and being, you know, just used, right? And the bottoms are a little bit beaten up from from dropping. They've been very well loved. And I think I bought these back in like 2015, 2016 maybe. So they were getting full and they were starting to sort of be a bit wibble wobbly, and I could probably fit a little bit more fiber on them, but you know, they're getting heavy and I'm spinning quite finely. And I was sort of looking at them and I was feeling really sad that I had filled them up, and I was like, I have been saying for years that I wanted to buy 2 more Bosworth spindles. Like, I have been saying this for years. So I did. It's like, obviously when your spindles are full, instead of like, you know, clearing them off, you just buy 2 more. So these are both Bosworth spindles, and honestly, I wish you guys could reach through the camera and could feel how smooth this is. It is so unbelievably smooth. So this one here is 20 grams and it's red heart wood. And it is 20 grams. And then this one is red cedar, and it is also 20 grams. So the one that I had hoped to get was actually sold out. By the time I actually placed my order, she emailed me right away and she's like, that one's actually not available anymore. I am so sorry. How about blah, 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 blah. And so I ended up choosing a different one. So I've been working steadily away. This is actually quite a long time in spinning. Like, as much as these aren't very full, it doesn't look like there's a lot of fiber. I don't find that for me specifically that I'm actually a very fast spindle spinner. I've kind of come to the conclusion that I am just not really super quick. I was finding, I was using my spindles, my Inoxia spindles, and I'm not actually sure where it is. I thought it was right here, but it might not be. And I was super excited about bringing her spindles into this spin. But because I'm spinning so fine, they actually are a little bit too heavy and they kept dropping. And I thought, you know what? I am going to save these spindles for a different spin. And I was able to get a couple more storage bobbins for her. And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about the Inoxia spindles, go back to episode, what episode did I talk about her spindles? I want to say 271. There's a photo of her spindles with these are in white, of these really cool bobbins that attach to the shaft of the spindle in the photo. So, and they're 3D printed spindles. You'll know them when you see them, but they're in the thumbnail. I think I'll link it in the show notes, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 270, 271. So I've kind of set them aside because I have another spindling project over the next couple of weeks that I'd really like to start, that's kind of percolating in the back of my mind. However, in the meantime, while all of this was going on and while I was spinning and doing all of this, I usually spin when the kids are at tutoring, and it's about an hour and a half of uninterrupted spinning time because we walk and we do different things, but I'm spinning the whole time. And that's when I've been working on this specific spin. And Nora took my phone. I didn't know that she had my phone, and she started taking video. And then at the same time, in the Ravelry group, in the Ask Anything thread, somebody had asked, how do you spindle spin? What are some of the things that you do? And how do you run it down your leg? And so I was looking at my Google Photos after we got back from our trip, and I was like, Nora's taken all this video of how I spindle spin and how I do my suspended spindling, how I draft. So I hold my fiber in my right hand and I draft with my left, just like I do on the wheel. So with supported spindling, I do the opposite, but with suspended spindling, I draft the same way that I do on the wheel. Oh, hi Sam, it's so good to have you here. Jack says, I think that's Amara. She says cedar can get so velvety smooth when it's sanded and oiled like that. I totally agree. Diana says, I love the deep notch that the Bosworth spindles put in. They're lovely tools. I'm trying to read while I'm watching what I'm streaming. I'm multitasking. It doesn't work. Amazing. Diana's excited because I'm starting out with spindles and she can't stay for the whole show because she has to head out. So I'm so glad, Diana. So I wanted to share this video that Nora took. I pieced together a whole bunch. So this is how I run it down my leg. So when I run it down my leg, I have to think about this for a minute. Somebody was saying they were having a really hard time figuring out like which way the spindle was spinning. So first things first, you have to be consistent. So when I run the spindle down my leg and I'm running it and I'm pushing it with my left hand down my leg, I am pushing it into a Z twist or a clockwise rotation to the right. And then when I'm plying, when I use my left hand and I run it up my leg, I am pulling it in the opposite direction. And I am putting in counterclockwise twist, and I'm spinning to the left, i.e. counterclockwise. So I'm putting in S twist when I go up my leg with my left hand, and I'm putting in Z twist when I go down my leg with my left hand. And yes, it is important to remember for me which hand, my left or my right, is the one that's doing the pushing, because if I push it with my right hand down my leg, it's the opposite. So I have to pay attention to which hand I'm pushing and which way I'm going, up my leg or down my leg. So how I do it is I always push off with my left hand, for me personally, because I draft like this. So because I draft like this, I don't want the spindle to fall. Because I draft like this, I always have to turn the spindle to the left, and I go down my leg with my left hand. So this hand, for me personally, never pushes. So for the person that asked about getting confused with the running it down their leg, go back and watch that and just watch what I'm doing in the video and watch it over and over if that's helpful, and then give it a try yourself and watch how the direction that the spindle is going, and hopefully that'll help you. So the other spin that I had going, and I did finish, my goal was to come home from our trip with all 4 spindles started. Not full, just started. And I was able to do that. So that was really good. I felt really happy about that. All right, so do I have, I thought I had photos. Maybe I don't. Nope, that's for something else. I'm sorry, you guys. So this is the other spindling project that I have. So what I did, on our trip, we had a 9-hour drive to Jasper and a 9-hour drive home. And it's actually, like, on Google Maps, it's only like 7.5 hours, but we say 9 hours because that's all like the stopping and the you know, rest stops and stopping for lunch, making it in the trailer, getting back in the truck, blah, 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 the kids complaining, all that kind of stuff. And I have to say, our kids are incredible. On the way home, James read an entire book. Nora is reading the School for Good and Evil books right now, and she's almost finished the first one. I bought her the second one already as like a motivator to keep her reading the first one because she loves it. They're massive books. And Nora's just going into grade 4, and she started the book at the beginning of the summer, and it's well within her reading capabilities. It's just that it's so long. They're big, thick books, and so she was reading that the whole way home. So like it was the first time that we drove where the kids read basically the whole time. Like usually they'll read for a part of the time. We'll put on an audiobook, we'll listen to podcasts, we'll listen to the radio, we'll chit chat, we'll play games like looking for license plates and stuff. But this was the first time that they basically just read their books the whole time. It was like this whole new stage that we've entered. So what I did was I took this lovely case that my friend Dorothy sent me when she sent me I bought her Mingo and Asho spindle off of her. Let me just show it to you guys quickly. And she sent me it in this lovely box. And I was kind of surprised when I saw the box because I was like, oh my gosh, like, don't you want that box? But it is the perfect spindle box because it's nice and long and it fits all the spindles. So what I did when we were leaving, this is the Mingo and Asho that she sent me. It is so beautiful and it's heavy. Oh, I just love it. I was so happy to send her an e-transfer for this. And there's a little spinning bowl that goes with it too, the glass one, because the Mingo and Asha ones, they're the glass spins, they always go with the glass bowl. Anyhow, she sent this to me in this lovely box, and we had very limited space. We always have limited space when we're traveling. So what I did was I took my spindles and I kind of like piecemealed them and figured out how many spindles and which spindles would all fit in the box. And my goal was minimum 6, so that if I got bored of one, I could switch to another one. So I fit these 6 spindles in here, and they were empty when I left, except for one of them. And I took them, and my goal was to come home with them started. They didn't have to be full, they just had to be started. So these are the spindles that made it. And then I'll talk about what I'm spinning. So my 2 Allen Berry spindles, they made it, and they both got started. As you can see, this one got started second, and wait, maybe you can't. This one got started second, and I was working on it in virtual spin group this morning, and it's not as full as this one. This one ended up being worked on quite a bit more, but those 2 made the cut. This was the one that was already started, so this one kind of had to come with me, and this is one of my Mirkwood spindles, and a Rainbow Ecstasy or something, I can't remember what it's called. It's on the website. Anyhow, this was already very, very full. I wish I had left it at home, because as soon as I started spinning on it to fill it up a little bit more, it's quite heavy now with the amount of fiber that's on here, which doesn't look like much, but it actually is quite a bit. I'll talk about my hand in a minute, but I couldn't put any more fiber on it. So it ended up just coming along for the ride and enjoying the photographs, which are gonna go up on Instagram in the next couple of days. I just have to get them posted. My Silly Salmon made it, and I got that one started. That's almost an entire half of a Rolag on there, and if you can believe it, like, or maybe it's a whole Rolag. Anyways, it looks like it's empty, but there's a ton of fiber on here. It's just crazy. My Volchuk Arts from Russia, which I don't think you can get these spindles at this time, which is really too bad, because I would love another one, made it. And this is, again, incredibly full, but it looks like it's empty, but it's really full, I promise. One of my yarn spindles from Maine made it. This one has a metal tip, which I really like. This spindle, compared to all of the other ones that I took, is actually very slow compared to the other ones, and I really like it. I kind of messed up though on winding the cop on this one. You can see how long it is, and I was finding that as I was working away at it, it was slowly it was doing that slow creep where it, like, you know, migrates up the shaft, and I was really finding it quite frustrating. So I'm actually going to wind this one off and start it again, because it's just, it's not wound properly. The cop isn't tight enough, it's not short enough, it's just all the things wrong. So I stopped working on this one and put it aside. And then the Mingo and Asho, I had so much fun playing with this because I hadn't played with it yet, and I hadn't pulled it out yet, and I was just, and again, there's a ton of fiber on here, but you can't tell. It's just crazy. So what am I spinning? And I worked on it in the truck, so I was spinning on the way there and on the way back. I really made it a priority to spindle spin this trip, and I really made it a priority to put my knitting aside. Before I tell you about the fiber, I had a really interesting, when Crystal and I were chatting, she said something really interesting, and it's kind of been percolating in the back of my head ever since, but she was like, I have so much yarn that I ended up and I don't want to knit tons and tons of things all the time. So I went to spindle spinning to slow myself down so that I could still enjoy the spinning process, but I wouldn't produce as much yarn. And I thought, yeah, that's where I am now. I'm at that point where I don't want to produce very much. I know that sounds a bit odd. I have a podcast. We talk about process here. We talk about things I've finished. We talk about things that I'm working on, inspiration, etc. But I'm really at that point where I don't want to produce very much anymore. And I have a stash that I'm working my way through. This was a stash busting project that I'll talk about later. but I really, it was a big aha moment for me, and I can really see how diving more into the nuances and getting more into like the nitty gritty of things, you know, reading even more than I already do and spending more time kind of in the weeds, if you will, is really way more where my head is at now, and just really enjoying the fiber when I put it onto my spindles, or when I make a project that's sort of intentionally a bit slower. Thank you, Diana. Have a great time with Kim. So what am I spinning on these support spindles? So I am actually working on these Rolags that I bought from Katrina back when Rebecca was here in 2020. So I have a whole other set of these as well that are blue, and it's 3.7 ounces or 107 grams of 26% sari silk, 15% mulberry silk, and 59% organic Polworth. And these are Rolags that she pulls off of the drum carder. So they're really big and they're really dense. And there is just an unbelievable amount of fiber in each of these. And I actually was struggling to spin them when I first started this project, which is why it kind of got set aside, because I started this project back in, let me just double check, back in, it was a while ago. I started this in November of 2022, so almost a year ago, just shy a couple of months. And I just immediately felt overwhelmed by it. And I think it's just because of the sheer amount of fiber that is in these Rolags. So what I have been doing, and I just put it away, so I'll show you with this one. What I've been doing is I've actually been taking the Rolag and I've just been pulling off a little bit, so that I have this little like nubbin of fiber. And then from the end, I've just been pre-drafting out a little bit like this, just a little bit, just to break up that sari silk and get it opened up. And I don't necessarily do all of it because I find otherwise it becomes unmanageable. But then I have a little bit to spin and get started with, and then I can get going like with this next little bit of fiber. And I've been practicing my joins, and I've been practicing like, you know, what happens if the spindles keep spinning and I hold onto the fiber and I'm drafting against, like all different techniques and all different ways of playing with this, with the supported spindles. And just starting off with that, just to break up the fiber. But you can see like how much fiber is in there. It's just so much fiber. So like something like this little nubbin thing here is like an hour of spinning. So this project's going to take a while. And what I realized when we were driving home, because I set up in the, so my friend Sam gave me this fantastic little, you fill it with like lentils or beans or whatever. It's a little spinning pad, and you put it on your lap and you put your bowl in it. It's brilliant. And it just gave me something to work on, a surface to work on, because there wasn't really anywhere for me to put my spoon in the truck. But having that little like pad, because just like some of my bowls that work with some of my spindles the best, they don't sit between your thighs particularly well. Like I needed something to rest the bowl on, like the Mingo and Asho little glass heart that comes with it is beautiful, but like it doesn't fit between your legs. So that was brilliant. So Sam, thank you so much. And as we were coming home, I was noticing that as I was spinning and as I was working, I was like, my hands are stiff. And I thought, that's really odd. Like I haven't really experienced this before, and I haven't had that degree of hand stiffness per se. But this hand, my right hand, my dominant hand, usually doesn't have any stiffness. It's the one that it'll really act up if I do a lot of purling. And it'll always act up back here, and it's like a tendinitis that starts to aggravate the back of my hand. And I've had to take breaks before. If you guys have been here for a long time and you've watched the show from the beginning, you'll remember like there's times in my making life when I've had to have self-imposed breaks for that tendon back here. But this time round, it's both hands, and it's not that tendinitis. It's like a stiffness. And as soon as I started to support spindle the other day again, and as soon as I started to twist the spindle, I was like, this is fatigue. This is repetitive strain from spindle spinning. And so there's a couple of things that have really worked really well for me. Wetting the tips of my fingertips, like just going like this when I go to spin. Just gives me a little bit of friction and I don't have to push as hard on the tip of the spindle. That's worked really, really well. And it just means that my hand doesn't have to work quite as hard. The other thing that's worked really, really well, let me just get one of the spindles out so I can show you. One of the other things that's worked really well is when I go to kick off, to push the spindle, instead of focusing on my thumb doing the pushing, I've actually been focusing on my pointer finger pulling. And that just those two pieces both working together rather than one taking over, because your thumb is so much stronger. That muscle is so much bigger in your thumb. But having them both, my pointer work a tiny bit harder and my thumb work a little bit less, I have actually found that there's not as much, there's not that same strain. And then the other thing is taking breaks. I can't sit and spin, whether it's at the wheel, on my suspended spindles, my support spindles, knitting. I just can't do it for hours and hours and hours and hours like I used to be able to. And I think some of that is endurance, and some of that I've lost some of that stamina and some of that endurance for sure, and I could work it back up again. And I think the other piece of it is just overuse. It's repetitive strain. And so I'm very, 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 you guys know me, who followed me for a while, you guys know I'm very aware of this stuff, and I'm very cognizant of making sure that I'm not overdoing it. And it was just a really good reminder. It was sort of a, okay, we got to do things differently. I can't keep doing things the way I've always done them and expect different results. I find that if I spin too long a length too often, I end up with strain just between the armpit and the boob. Oh, interesting. So you get it like up here. Oh, that's so interesting, Christine. Because everybody wears their tension differently, right? And everybody has such different ergonomics and bodies and body... the way we move our bodies is all very different too. It was so funny. I've been really working hard at the wheel to not twist. And Eve is always yelling at me about it, how badly I twist. And I've been really conscious about retraining my body to stay straight on with my wheel and working out. And when I get to my body, I have to wind my singles onto the bobbin, right? I can't twist to keep on going, which is just a really bad habit. So, yeah, it's been really good for me to take stock of some of this stuff and really retrain how I do things. Oh, thank you, Sam. Arnica cream into your hands like hand cream. It can ease any tension and swelling. Thank you, Sam. Thankfully, there's no swelling, but there's definitely tension. So that I'll give that a try. I'll see if I can find some. I have a cream that I get from my physio office called it's called P3. It's made locally. It's been really helping. So yeah, Eve says I give her a backache. Totally, because I twist so badly. Like I'll even sit like this. I'll like twist my whole body. So my legs are forward right now, and I'll twist my whole body and I'll work back here. And Eve's like, "Oh my gosh, like stop!" And then of course the thing is that you have to balance by going the other way, and I don't. So yoga is great for that, for balancing you out, doing those twists the other way. You know, getting that stress and that strain out by doing that counter movement, working our posterior chain, not always working in our front. All these things are really important. Changing the side that you carry your purse on, wearing a backpack that's fitted properly, that's actually like in the proper spot. Yeah, all those things. Good to see you, Becca. Thank you so much for being here. All right. We have a lot to talk about still, so let's move on to spinning. So we talked about spindling, and now we're talking about spinning. And the only reason why I divide these up for those who are new to the show or haven't watched before is because there are those of us who want to work only on spindles. There are those of us who want to work only on wheels, and then there are those of us who go back and forth between all of them and love all the things. So I do break them up so that for people who are only interested in wheel spinning, you know where to go in the show to watch what you want to watch. So I have been working on this for the last basically like month and a half. I took these 3 colorways from Sweet Georgia, and I wanted to do a big color combo color spin, and that was based on a spin that I had done for Felicia years ago for her book, Spin to Knit and Dye. No, Dying to Spin and Knit. What was that called? That's terrible that I don't have that off the top of my head. So Dying to Spin and Knit, I think. It's Felicia Lowe's book. And I did that yarn for her, and ever since then I wanted to redo it, and I wanted to spin it, sorry guys, I wanted to spin it myself a different way, in a way that I wanted to spin it. So I divided everything up and I carded the 3 colorways together. So I made 8 nests of fiber, and then I took each of those nests and I divided them again. So I had 16 from each half of the braid. I divided everything in half just so I had a little bit less to have to work with. So in the end, if I had not started spinning before I finished my fiber prep, I would have had 32 of those carded nests of fiber. So because there were 32, and because I had thought that maybe I would only do a 2-ply, my initial plan was to spin sort of 16 to each like bobbin. It wouldn't have all fit, but you know what I mean, and then ply that all together. In the end though, it spun up so fine, and there is so much yarn. What were we just talking about too much yarn and trying to stash down and all that? Yes, making it about the process, spinning slower. Yeah, this is where this came in, because I'm still having difficulty accepting that this is what I'm going to do. So what I did was I've spun to 3 bobbins. So I spun 10, 10, and 10 of those carded nests of fiber to each bobbin. I have the finished bobbins here. I have 3 of these, but 2 of them got 2 extra nests of fiber. And with the leftovers from those 2 bobbins, after I finish plying, with the leftovers, I'm going to do a 2-ply sample, and I'm also going to do a chain ply sample. And I would also like to do a cabled yarn sample. And the reason for that is just to see how combining these colorways, because I only put them through the drum carder once. So you can see that little nest of fiber that I'm spinning there. You can see, let me just make myself smaller. Come on, there we go. You can see how the nest of fiber that I'm spinning, there's still like very distinct strips of color. It did not combine and blend together like what we would expect if I had continued to put it through the drum carder and continued to card it and card it and card it and make an overall very homogeneous colorway. What I wanted was to simulate what a combo spin would look like. Not necessarily holding all 3 colors together at exactly the same time in every single draft of the yarn, but close. So Dion had asked me what it looked like when I was actually spinning from this thing, because these nests of fiber were huge. And basically it ended up working, as you can see here, it's like spinning across the top. That's really how it ended up working out. Just slowly taking from each, just working my way across the comb top and then working my way back across. Oh, you guys are talking about baked beans. Yes, love baked beans. I need to put the join that Rachel did on a loop. I'm not sure that I know what you mean, Lisa. Was there something that you were is it the join when we start swimming? Or start swimming. Oh my gosh, start spinning, like at the loop to leader at the beginning? It makes a huge difference. It's a game changer for sure. I was catching up on podcasts. I was listening away while I was spinning this last, I think this was the second or third last nest of fiber. I was so excited to get it done. And you know, it's funny, like sometimes it's so hard when you're just working your way through and you're trying to spin such a huge volume of fiber, because each of these nests, I meant to calculate this before. Each nest is 115 grams, and I had 3 to spin. So that's 345 grams of fiber. It's a fair amount of spinning. And I did this in a very short period of time because I started this project on, let me just check. This is where Ravelry is really helpful. I really use, the one thing I do really use with Ravelry is the notebook. I've always used it right from 2006 or 2005 when I first joined. It's just been awesome to keep this as my, like to really keep track of everything and keep track of it well. So I started this on June 19th and the singles are finished. That's a lot of spinning in less than a month, because I finished spinning the singles on, when did we get back from our trip? We got back on Saturday. I finished the singles by about Tuesday last week. So a week ago. Yeah. So it's a lot of spinning in a month. A lot of spinning in a month. Yeah. So there you go, you guys. That is how I spun this fiber. And I tried to take lots of different angles for you so that you could see sort of what it would look like from the different angles and how I spin differently as I work my way through the nests of fiber. I think it's really important, and it gives you guys an opportunity to sort of see what that process was like and what that looks like when I'm actually spinning. And now it's just a matter of sitting down and plying. So I'll set myself up one evening when I've got an opportunity to sit for a while and ply. I'm most likely going to ply on my Ashford E-spinner. I have a lot of plying to do. There's a couple other things that I haven't plied yet either, and they've been sitting around waiting to be plied, and I think that I'll probably ply all of it at the same time. So yeah, I hope that that was helpful for you guys to see how I actually spun it. All right, I did finish spinning all of my singles on my Kainnu Harma. They are here. I finished all 300 grams. I processed it all, got it all lock popped, got it all drum carded. We'll talk about this spin next show on episode 274 because I will have all of the skeins done, washed, finished. That's what I mean about having a lot of plying to do. So I've got these left to ply. I just finished spinning them yesterday. I had an opportunity to sit quietly for a couple minutes and spin. I had just this last little bit to do, and then this will be done. I am so excited. This has been a very, very long-term project. I started this a long time ago, and I'm just so pleased with it, and I'm pleased to be done, and I'm excited to share that with you next time. So that is done. Do you make notes even if you don't have a project in mind? I do, Sam. And you know, I use the notes. I tend to put them in the notebook on Ravelry. I've always used that. And oh, thank you, Dion. She said, I love watching you spin. It's hypnotic, says Lisa. Thank you, you guys. I do tend to use the notebook on Ravelry for that function. I know there are people out there that can't use Ravelry or find it frustrating to use Ravelry. It's part of my workflow. It's what's always worked for me. There's probably other ways that you can keep track of your stuff. Google Keep is a good one. Any kind of organizational software that you can plug in notes and ideas. And I do tend to make notes. I keep sticky notes everywhere. These are all my notes. I've got sticky notes down here. I've got stuff here. All these are sticky notes that are in progress. And what I do with all of this stuff is so that I don't lose track of it, so it doesn't just get written down and then forgotten about. There's all of these. Is I keep them with me as I'm making and as I'm creating. And then what I do is I put them in my bullet journal, and I try to take a minute every so often and transcribe them into my Ravelry notebook. And it's usually notes and comments and stuff. And then, like Dion says, my sticky notes don't stick. Once they don't stick anymore and once they aren't working and they kind of fall out and you lose track of them, I've already written down the notes. It's just part of my workflow. Sam says I need a workshop on how to use Ravelry. I can help you, Sam. We can definitely do that. Lisa says she does too. If you guys want to do a little bit of a run through on Ravelry one morning, like if we're in Weave group or Fiber Prep group or something, I can do that with you guys, no problem. Let me know. That would be my pleasure. Okay, let's talk about what I cast on while we were away. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of on the fence about this one, but I really like the colors and I can appreciate that. I'm tempted to start calling this my raspberry sweater. This is Trinigan by Andrea Mowry. The reason why I started this and why I chose this pattern is kind of interesting in the sense that, like, sometimes you're in a situation where you just don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's really any other options or anything else that might work. And it's the thing that you like the most out of options that you don't particularly like. That sounds really negative, but it's the truth. So unfortunately I forgot the yarn over there. It's a little bit out of reach. It's actually down there by the plant, but I can show it to you next time. I had this combo spin. This you're gonna notice that the show over the next couple of years is all about getting yarn out of my stash and using it. Hashtag use your handspun. This is all tangled. Don't ask me, just go with it, roll with it. So this yarn was a combo spin, and it was Three Waters Farm. It was a colorway that I had bought from Three Waters Farm that I just loved. And it was these purples and these reddy kind of colors, burgundies. There was some lighter colors. I can't remember the colorway. There was some red in there. And I had just gotten my Ashford e-spinner. I wanted to do a spin on it that would be relatively quick, that I could get used to the e-spinner and start to really play with it and gear up to do the big spins that I did for the wheeler for Ashford looms and wheels in the subsequent months. And I had another braid in my stash that was unlabeled, and it was also Falkland. I should say, caveat, both braids were Falkland. And I decided to do a combo spin where I just spun one to one bobbin, one to the other bobbin, and I plied them together. And it resulted in a lot of yardage in the end. I was actually surprised at how much yardage I ended up getting. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. I will figure it out. We will talk about it next show. The unlabeled Falkland had become quite compacted. It had been in my stash for a long time. It was a little bit beaten up when I bought it. The dyer's no longer dyeing, and getting used to the e-spinner again, getting started on it again. My spinning is not particularly consistent. See if the camera, yeah. My spinning is not particularly consistent. There's a lot of air in places. There's not a lot of air in other places. The twist angle is okay. I was actually quite disappointed with this yarn when I finished it off, and it was a little bit thicker than I was hoping for. There's just all these things that I just, pre-process. You jump into a project without really thinking about it. You do the thing, and then you sort of like, oh. So it sat in my stash for quite a long time. And then when Rebecca and I were at Fibers West in March, I saw this yarn. This is Gathering Yarns Haynes Creek Heathers DK. And I saw this color, and it's not a bad color for me. It's not the best color for me, but it's not terrible. But I saw the color, I just loved it. I don't know why. I just really like this color for some reason. I have a t-shirt this color. I have a couple of other things that are this color. I don't know, I just really like, it's not pink. It's not purple. I just really like it. And I thought, I wonder if I have yarn in my stash that might work with this. And so I brought it home and started going through my stash, and sure enough, these two work really, really well together. And I went back the next day. I got enough skeins to do Trinigan because I was looking madly at patterns of like mosaic, like what could I do, what could I work? And this is so far how it's working up. So the sweater is an oversized, very boxy. You start at the bottom, you knit up, you drop the back, you knit the front, you do the other front, you pick up the back, you do the back, you seam them together, and then you do the sleeves. It's got a big oversized collar on it. It's very similar to what I just did with the Savory cardigan. The Savory Knitting, the Mandolin cardigan. So it's very similar in shape to this that I just finished. I wore this the other night because it got really cold and we were out for the evening. in the cul-de-sac with our cul-de-sac friends, and I pulled it on because I just needed something. It all of a sudden it got cold. Like the sun dropped behind the houses and there was a bit of a breeze, and we all had to put on sweaters. I pulled this on. I love this sweater so much. It's going to be one of my like most worn sweaters. It fits perfectly because I hadn't really spent any time in it. I had tried it on, I had put it on for the show for you guys, but I hadn't spent any time wearing it because it's the summer and it's like 30 degrees outside. Oh my goodness gracious, I love it. I came upstairs and I was like, I love this sweater, I don't want to take it off. Mike was teasing me. He's like, you can't sleep in your sweater, you'll get too hot. Anyhow, the sizing on these types of sweaters is generally really oversized. So I'm knitting the smallest size that's available in the pattern, but that's still something like 43 inches like meant it around. Like the sizing is supposed to be like 10 to 15 inches of positive ease. It's a lot of fabric. I kind of, in hindsight, wished I had started a little bit smaller. But because of my gauge and because of the fineness of the Gathering Creek, even though it's a DK and the pattern calls for a DK, it's quite fine. It's got a lot of air in it. It's a very airy, light yarn. And so I downsized the needles, and I'm really glad that I did because I would be regretting it by now if I hadn't. And this, I don't want to redo all this knitting. So this is knit in 3.5 millimeter needles or US size 6. And this is in 4 millimeter needles or US size 7. And the pattern calls for US, is it 8, is 4.5 millimeters. And that would have just been too airy, too open. The fabric wouldn't have worked. I talked about it on a previous episode. This fabric is perfect. And of course, because it's mosaic, you're slipping stitches and carrying them. These look like hearts, hey? Yeah, Lisa says, I love those two colors in your sweater reversed. It looks like hearts. Yeah, it's so pretty. Anyhow, because of that, you almost kind of with mosaic knitting have a double thick fabric anyways. So I was a little bit concerned about downsizing the needles and creating a slightly denser fabric. I'm sorry for the metal needles on the table. Of course, they scratch and they make that noise. So I'm very sorry. I'm trying to keep them up off the table, but I'm also trying not to shake the table, and the struggle is real. Anyhow, because you end up with that double thickness, it's like color work or stranded knitting and tarja, you end up with that double, this is going to be a very warm sweater. So it'll be outerwear, it'll be baggy, it'll be cozy, it'll be like, you know, sort of like pull it over and crunch down into it kind of thing. So I think I'll stick with it. It's going to be very raspberry. I don't know if I'm going to wear it. I may be reaching out to one of you saying, can I ship this to you and can you dye it gray for me and do like a really light gray wash over it so that this yarn, you can still see the nuances, but it just takes it down because it's very pink. But Rebecca warned me. She was like, really, Rachel, really. And I just was like set on it. I was like a dog with a bone. So there you go. Trust your gut. Go with it. Yeah, I like the wrong side a lot as well, Lisa. And I've always loved the wrong side of our knitting. I just love what it looks like, and I like that I love reverse stockinette as the right side. I just, yeah. I just need somebody to dye it for me. So we'll see. The other thing, the tubular cast on for the bottom, I'm just hoping that the kind of the waviness of it blocks out. When you pull on it to like to sort of when you like would go to like wear it or like and wash it and stuff, it does straighten out. It's not super even. I did it in the truck, and then you have to move stitches around to make it the 2x2, and it's not my favorite. In some ways, I would have just, knowing what I know now, I think I would have just done a long tail cast on, even though the tubular cast on is lovely. I've done it so much now, it's not my favorite. We'll talk about it when we talk about this. There are things about it that I don't love, and it might just be me and that I'm not getting a nice even graft, like that my Kitchener isn't really super even and I just need to practice more, but I don't know. It's not my favorite. Maybe because it's so fiddly. I'm not sure. That it might be me. It might be me. I fully recognize that. All right. I just made sure that YouTube was still okay and that everything is working, and it's showing me spinning, like back the combo spin. I was like, oh no, is it way behind? But no, we're okay. All right, let me talk about my sweater that I'm wearing, because I just finished it. It's washed, it's blocked, it's finished. Let's go into that. So I had this epiphany over the last week or so, and I was thinking about, and I was looking through my closet and stuff, because we redid our closet. I had told you guys all about that, and we've got a lovely closet organizer now. It's not quite done because the floor is not in yet, but as soon as it is, I'll take a photo and I'll show you guys. And I was going through all my stuff, and I was thinking, like, I have made a lot of stuff over the years, and I know we started the segment on the show called Sweater Reflections, and quite a few people have asked me to make sure that when I do that, that it's about hand-spun sweaters specifically. So we'll start that up probably next show, I suspect. And but I was looking through my stuff, and I was like, you know, it's funny, like some of them I've really worn a lot, and some of them I haven't. And so it'll be neat for me to go back and to talk to you guys about why I have or haven't worn something very much or at all. So let me show you, before I stand up and show this sweater to you guys, let me show you what this is. This is called the Mini Mock Neck, because it's like a mock tank top. It took me a while to get that. Mini Mock Neck Tank, and it's by Jessie Made Designs. If you guys haven't seen her, she's a size inclusive designer. She also does substitutions for yarn. So if you want a really expensive, luxurious sweater, this is what she recommends. If you want like the next sort of a medium sweater, this is what she recommends, and then the lowest, which is really, I think, really important when we're looking at budgets. Not every sweater needs to be $1,000, and not every sweater needs to be $40. So it's nice to have that in between. For us as spinners, we can do whatever we want, but it's nice to have those options. So I meant to prepare some photos for you guys of what this yarn looked like. So if you're happy to hold tight for just a sec, I will show you the yarn, because I think that's actually really important when you're looking at the sweater, to know what the yarn looked like. And because I just spun this last year, I know exactly where to find the yarn. So this was the original fiber. Just give me a sec while I move things around, because I know that it's over top of me right now, but I will fix it. Just give me 2 seconds. Thank you for your patience. All right. So this is just going to cycle through, but this was called At the Old Mill by, and this was dyed by Elfin Wool, which I don't think Tina is still dyeing anymore, which is really too bad. I spun it as a fractal, and the only reason why I did that was because even though there wasn't like a colorway on the fiber per se, I just love what fractals look like. I think they're beautiful. They follow a striping pattern. They tend to be really beautiful. It's a little bit less random than just a traditional 3-ply. If you mix things up and you do like little nests of fiber and you throw it into a bin and you toss it all up. With a fractal, it's usually, there's a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more of a rhyme and a reason to it. Kind of like what happens with a traditional 3-ply, where you don't do any stripping and you just strip the braid twice and you have 3 lengths of fiber and you spin them end to end. So same kind of idea, where you end up with these, you know, long, slow transitions of color. Now, this spin was very fine, and it was an interesting spin because it was Shetland, banana fiber, and Tussa silk. So it's very planty in feeling once it was washed and finished. I knew it would drape really beautifully. It was very fine. I have a lot left over. So I had 120 grams originally of 3-ply yarn, and I think in the notes I wrote 2-ply, but it's a 3-ply yarn. It was 120 grams originally, and the grist was 2,000 yards per pound. So very light, very airy. The banana fiber and the Tussa silk didn't weigh very much. The Shetland doesn't weigh very much. And you can see how much fiber I have left. I need to do the final calculations where I weigh this out and I figure out what what's left, and then figure out how much yardage the shirt actually took. Because between you, me, and the lamppost, I'm kind of regretful that I used this particular yarn to have this much left over, because I had other skeins that were that were quite a bit smaller, that I would have used the entire skein and I wouldn't have yarn left over. So anyhow, I did lengthen it. I did lengthen it by about 1 inch. I wish I had lengthened it a little bit more, but let me stand up and show you guys. I was going to leave this on my dress form, but I wanted to show you my outfit because I designed this to be this outfit. Like this was the whole thing. So we'll take photos. I'll get them all posted, but this is the sweater. This is the back. You cast on back here. You pick up and knit. Sorry for the echoey sound because I've moved away from the microphone. And then you pick up at the front and you work your way down, and then you cast on stitches and you knit down, and then you join for the back. You've got this beautiful shaping here. This beautiful, there's textured stitching in here that you do all the way down that just finishes off that edge beautifully. Join and you knit straight down. And I thought that it would take forever. I thought that the knitting would take forever, that you're dealing with lots of stitches, very small gauge. I was knitting on 3.5mm needles, which is a US size 4. I thought for sure it would take forever. It was done like that. I was finished the first day of our drive up to Jasper. I had cast it off. This is a tubular cast off down here, which I don't like. I wish I had done a long tail, but that's okay. It matches up here. You pick up the neck stitches afterwards and knit up 1.5 inches-ish. This is it from the side. And this was the skirt that I chose this yarn for. So if I come back here, the skirt is quite long, and this was the outfit that I was sort of hoping to create and give me something to wear with this, because I was like, I don't want to just make this and not have something to wear it with. I need to have something that like will go together, that will actually give me a reason to wear it. So the yarn was lovely to work with. It is very planty. It doesn't, there's no give to the yarn. There's no elasticity. It's very drapey. It washed and bloomed beautifully. It dried very quickly because of that banana fiber in there. It dried like that. It's next to the skin for me. This would be pretty crisp for somebody who doesn't necessarily, like when I first pulled it on, I was like, ooh, that's crispy. But it's not unpleasant. It's just crispy. So you may, like for somebody who did a blend like this, you may want to wear a tank top underneath. I'm not. I've just got regular undergarments, but that is something to think about for sure. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is that the original pattern, you really do have to just trust her. She says in the pattern, measure your upper bust and choose the pattern that is either at or below your, like she gives you all these instructions about which size to choose. It is a very close fit. And the whole time I was knitting it, I was like, this feels very tight. I don't know. This feels very tight, but it's perfect. You really do just have to trust her. So yeah, I could never wear something woolish in summer. This isn't hot at all. This is, yeah, it's not hot. Yeah, the yarn picks up the color, the skirt color, and also it has echoes of Rachel's hair and eyes. Oh, thank you, Charlotte. You always notice stuff like that. I really appreciate that. Thank you. The blue that's in here, which you can't really see, but you probably saw in the original fiber when I showed it to you, the blue that's in there, that kind of denim-y blue, is the reason why I chose it to go with the skirt, because I knew that they matched. So, and it was very understated, very, very slight. And then the ochre, the gold, the ochre yellow, and the brown, of course, go beautifully with the blue of the skirt. So yeah, that's the sweater. So if you guys have any questions about it, don't hesitate to ask. It is, like I said, it's a very close fit. I was worried about the length of the armholes and the size of the arm sky, but it fits perfectly. It's not hot. The banana fiber definitely keeps it a little, and the silk is cooling. So the Shetland's not hot at all. And yeah, my sister-in-law this morning was like, I want one. I was like, oh, thank you. That's always the biggest compliment, right? When somebody says that they want something. So it's very kind. All right, we have a lot of community participation. I'm not sure how much of it we're going to actually get through, but I really wanted to show you the Tour de Fleece thread. It went on and on and on. It's a bit long. I'll talk about it in a sec, but first let's run the credits for community participation, and I will see you on the other side. It's funny actually, because the last yarn that shows up on the slideshow there, like that you just saw, that was the yarn that was the contender for this shirt. I almost used that yarn over this yarn, but it was a little bit too fine. The 3-ply was a bit rounder, it filled in the fabric a little bit nicer, and it was just a little bit more what I was thinking when I was thinking about the fabric, because I didn't want to do a ton of swatching. And yeah, in the end, this fingering weight was just a little bit closer to the gauge. It was bang on versus that one that was a little bit too fine. Charlotte says, I also think it would make a great underlayer with a super fine wool for the winter. So what I was even thinking with this one, you could wear this with a collared shirt underneath, with a long sleeved collared shirt. It would look really nice. And then you'd have the tails of the collared shirt coming out the bottom. It would be really nice with high-waisted jeans. I was definitely thinking that. Do you think it would work in a plant silk blend? Yeah, I think so, Dion, because you have to knit it with such, it's supposed to be so close in terms of your ease. You're supposed to actually have, I wish I had my, oh, I do have the pattern here. I thought I didn't have it, but I do. Okay, let's just talk about the pattern for just a sec. So for the, she says in the pattern, and all the other knitting that I started that I talked to you guys about last time, I just put it on hold for now. It was just too much to bring everything. And so the Sarah cardigan, pullover, I've started it. It's just on hold. The Winter's Beach, I ripped it out. We'll talk about it in another show. And I'll restart it again. So what she talks about is that the top is designed with 4.5 to 6.5 inches or 11.5 to 16.5 centimeters of negative ease at the full chest for a close fit. So I would even say this is negative ease. So choose your size. To choose your size, subtract 4.5 to 6.5. So I went with 5.5. It's the average of the two. From your full chest measurement, and choose the closest garment full chest measurement size. It's a bit confusing. So what I ended up doing was my full chest is 32 inches. And so I went with, did I actually write it down? I don't even think I wrote it down. Did I cast on 60 stitches? I knit the full chest measurement. Garment full chest, yeah. I knit the small. So there's extra small all the way up to 5X. And it goes from a 28-inch bust all the way up to a 60-inch bust. And I did the one for the 32-inch bust, which is 27.5 inches. So you're gonna wanna figure out what your full chest measurement is, and then you take off 5.5 inches, and then you knit the one that's gonna give you, so let's say your bust measurement around is 50 inches. I'm just using round numbers because it's easier. If it's 50 inches, then you're gonna wanna go down to the 45, whatever's closest to 45 inches. So you can see how you really have to do a bit of a faith fall. What is it called? A trust fall. You have to just trust the pattern. And I had read on Ravelry in people's projects, I had read like just trust it. Just trust the pattern, trust your gauge, trust, like it'll be fine. And it was fine. So trust the process. Trust your measurements. If you don't think that you are going to get an accurate measurement by doing it yourself, ask your partner, your spouse, your best friend, and get them to measure for you. I should say I also measured with my undergarments that I would wear on a regular day. I also measured with those on. So my full bust is 32 inches with undergarments. And I think that's important just as a caveat, because sometimes we're measuring without those undergarments, but then you put on those undergarments and it can add an extra, depending on what you wear, it can add up to an extra inch. You know, for me, it's pretty minimal, but for some people, it can be quite significant. So whatever you would normally wear underneath, measure with that on. This isn't about vanity. This is about getting your measurements accurate so that your clothes fit you and are really, really flattering. So yeah, thank you, Dana, for your compliment on the tank, and thank you for being here. Okay, so community participation. We have a lot in the PowerPoint, so if we have time at the end to do the Tour de Fleece thread, we will. I'm just a little bit concerned that you know, the show gets to be so long, and my voice goes, to be honest. That's actually what happens, is my voice goes. So for the Attune Shawl Along, you guys have started to really share your stuff. A lot of people spun through Tour de Fleece, which was awesome. And this is from Kathleen. She spun all of this during Tour de Fleece, and now she's knitting. I love the combination of these colors, the green. It's going to look like a beautiful English garden, I think, when it's done. Getting started on my Attune Quiet House this Sunday morning. Amazing. I'm a little bit jealous, Kathleen, of your quiet home and your me time. It sounds amazing. Trustful knitting. That's right, Charlotte. This is from Dion. I love this combination. I've been able to knit some on my shawl. She has to watch it because she's injured her hand. So again, those repetitive strain injuries and just really looking after ourselves. This is from Simone. She's been spinning, washing, and drying yarn. She'll be weighing and getting meterage. Then she can swatch. And she's already actually started working on it. And she's posted some photos of her Attune shawl in the Slack channel. It just looks awesome. Forgot to say, in the right background is New Zealand's ponga tree, or the silver fern tree. It looks beautiful. Amazing. I love that we have more and more people from Down Under joining the community. It's been so awesome to have you guys join. And for those of you who are down under, who are trying to make time zones work and whatnot, I wanted to participate in a webinar that's tomorrow night, and it's at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and so AEST, and it's 2 a.m. Pacific. And I was like, So for those of you who are down under, if you know that there are certain times that work for you, that coordinate, like if you've got friends and family that live in North America and you know that there are certain times that work, can you let me know? Because we can adjust stuff. To a certain point, we can adjust stuff. This is from Shauna. Such a cute photo. I cast on my hand spun Attune. This was going to be only be a sample to make sure it looked all good together, but I was able to get 4 entire repeats done, and I love it. Amazing. I'm still applying the main color, need to spin and apply the contrast. Incredible, Shauna. I love your colors and I love the contrast, but I really like that textured garter side. I think that looks awesome. The brioche is going to look good no matter what with whatever colors, but that textured side really shines. Beautiful. This is from Kat. Finally on to part 2. So she's in the garter section, which just looks awesome. And I think she posted a photo of this one further along, even more recently. It looks great. This is from Miriam. Look at that red, with the tea towel underneath of all the sheep. Finished my second braid of this year's Tour de Fleece for Attune. This is Port Fibers Sunset in Maine on South Down Shetland and silk. Beautiful. Spinning these colors has been therapeutic. Yeah, I don't think, there's definitely areas of the world, especially in North America this year, that have not had a very good summer. And I'm sorry to hear that. Thankfully, ours hasn't been quite as hot as it's been in previous years, which is really, really good. Mike is trying to get a hold of me. He's texting me. I always worry when he texts during the show because he knows that I'm streaming and he knows the live stream. And so he No, Eve, not that one. And yeah, so when he texts during the stream, I'm always like, oh, did something happen? So I do tend to check. This one is from Sally. Does anyone ever look at yarn they have spun and think, I can't quite believe I made that? Yes, we have all had those times, and that is beautiful. Beautiful yarn, Sally. This is from Rebecca. I love this photo. Thanks for the encouragement. I just wasn't happy with the matchup, and in the end I found a DK weight 100% superwash wool at my old local yarn shop. The price was right and it's just light enough. I'm off to the races. Beautiful. She's still in Maryland right now. She's still traveling. Our dear Rebecca, who does the Wool Circle. This is from Ellen. I love this low contrast as well. I've been really interested to watch you guys choose your colors and work through the process of picking colors, because so many of you have picked low contrast for the Attune shawl, and I think that's really interesting. I love low contrast personally, but it's been interesting to watch what people have been choosing. And a lot of people have said that they've chosen colors based on Andrea's samples and the samples that they've seen out there that they were drawn to the most, which I thought was really interesting. The gray is 2 different Jacob fleeces that she combo plied, and the pink is Zephyr by Into the World. And it was combo drafted with a pink oak from Yarns to Die For. Beautiful, Ellen. This is from Marina. 1 yarn done, still contemplating the second. So she hadn't posted the below photo just yet. It's all done now. She had only finished the one on the far right of the screen, and those colors are probably my favorite when it comes to hand spun. Like if I had an entire stash full of that yarn, I wouldn't have a stash. Because the below combo is my dream. I love those colors together. Gorgeous. Not quite white, more of a taupey brown, not quite, very neutral. The whole thing is neutral. It's going to look amazing, Marina. All right, Tour de Fleece. So you guys ripped it up when it came to Tour de Fleece, and you guys shared so much of what you were working on, your process, the things you were happily spinning away on. It was just awesome to watch you guys. So let's see if we can go through. So for those who are a little bit Ravelry adverse, there's no animation in this video. There's no, you're not going to see any of the little bobbly guys jumping up and down or anything. This is just a forum thread. So these are all of the photos that were posted in the Tour de Fleece thread over the course of Tour de Fleece and Tour de Fleece Femme. And I think what I was really struck by throughout this spinning, by all of you guys, was the diversity. There were spindles, there were suspended spindles, there were support spindles, there were homemade spindles, there was e-spinners, there was all variety of electric spinners. So some of you guys were spinning on Daedalus, some of you were spinning on Hanson, some of you were spinning on, there was a Hanson just that went by. Some of you were using the Ashford e-spinners. And then the variety of wheels that we all spin on is just mind-boggling. You know, from antique wheels to restored wheels to, one-of-a-kind wheels, Magikarcraft, Ashford, Shacked, Lendrum. I find it really empowering knowing that there are so many tools out there. They're so beautiful. They're made in all different woods and finishes, and you guys are engaging in your tools. You're using your tools. They're not just catching dust in the corner. You guys have so many different things that you're making, different preps. I think that's one of the biggest changes in our community over the last year is the change in how people are prepping their fiber. I think in the past, I certainly was like this. I would sit down with a braid and I would strip it down and I would sort of just start spinning. And I feel like over the last year or so, there's been a lot more intentionality and a lot more thoughtfulness and mindfulness about the product and what you guys are trying to create, the type of yarn that you're trying to create, why you're trying to create it, what you're trying to say in that creation, working with different dyers, different fiber prep from different people who are not just dyeing, but they're doing fiber prep as well. They maybe are working with pre-dyed fibers and then making their own prep. And then being really intentional about the what you want to do with the yarn. You know, what's the point? What's the purpose? How do you want the person who's viewing that yarn to feel? What's the project trying to say? Are we spinning for socks? Are we spinning for a sweater? Are we spinning for accessories? Are we spinning just to spin and just to throw that yarn and stash? And that's what really struck me when I was going through this and looking at all of these, all of the contributions through both Tour de Fleece and Tour de Femme, was the number of people that were working on different projects, the number of people that were sampling different things, and just the diversity of what people are making. It was so awesome to go through this and see this. Yeah, you should have, Eve. She says I should have put a Great Wheel photo in. Yes, totally. For those of you who are still in the chat that are sort of toward the end of the show here, when you were spinning for Tour de Fleece, did you have a specific goal in mind? Was there something that you were working toward? Was there something that you were really hoping to accomplish? And did you accomplish it? Did you get it done? Was it something that you had really hoped you would be able to do? I'm curious. I wanted to just spin every day, and I have to say that for the most part, I did. I wanted to get that combo spin done. I almost got it finished, but of course we were away, so I missed by a couple of days, but I did finish it before the end of July, so I did finish it within Tour de Fleece. Eve says she wanted to just spin and she got mixed results. Totally. Have you guys really noticed more and more people, more and more of us, like we're working for more and more different preps too. Different fibers, different preps, sourcing from different places. There's been, I've just noticed a larger variety, a larger diversity in what a lot of us are working on. Lisa said, I did. I spun every day with no goal, and I did. That's awesome, Lisa. You spun every day. Dion says, I wanted to spin my carpet fiber, and I did. Fantastic. And a certain style says, my goal was to spin down some random stash and spin at least 30 minutes every day, which I did. I did as much as I reasonably could, but I still didn't make much of a dent. Right? It's really hard getting through big stash. I'm feeling that way. I feel like I spin one thing and it doesn't feel like I'm really getting through my stash. I think what'll happen is one day I'll spin something and I'll finish it and I'll turn around and my stash will be significantly decreased. Like it'll be like all of a sudden it'll just be like gone. Do you know what I mean? Like I'll still have stash, don't get me wrong, but it'll be like all of a sudden it'll just be significantly decreased. I loved that yarn, those natural shades. Oh, Dion says, I'm finding I'm working with more fleece. Yes, me too. Charlotte says, moved several projects to the finish line, not just spinning, but all textiles, learned to thread my serger and finished a blouse besides all the cotton yarn finishing. That's awesome. I also spun an accidental lace weight, beautiful merino silk blend, so I was chuffed with that. Yes, beautiful. We're almost coming to the end here of all of the Tour de Fleece spinning, but it's so much fun. I think it's important to just celebrate all of this spinning that people did. Like this is a lot of time and energy. And it's interesting because on that Peggy Orenstein interview that I was listening to, she was talking about on the Current, the show that was on the radio on my way home. She was saying like people who make things with their hands tend to be a bit counterculture anyways. And she said like the time and the attention it takes to make something with your hands, you tend to kind of be going against the grain anyhow. And, you know, I think all of us in the community that have kind of found this love of working with fibers, it's true. So it's sort of important to celebrate that and to remind ourselves of that and to take a minute to look through threads like that. You know, look at bobbin shots on Instagram, other social media places where you can see just the sheer volume that people are working on. Even if it feels like individually we're not really doing a whole lot ourselves, it's really actually quite incredible what we all churn out year after year. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Dagmar says, I spun my Attune shawl yarn and now I am knitting this shawl. Yes. Yeah. Eve Anarchy. Of course. I like the idea of like that counterculture, counter-consumer, anti-consumer. It doesn't mean that we're not still out there in the world and purchasing and buying things, and that we're not still participating in the economy and in the world at large. But I think it's also really important to recognize that there is a different way. And it's okay to have those discussions and to think about what that might mean, especially in terms of our global footprint, you know, with global warming and all of that kind of stuff, right? All right. I am exhausted. I'm losing my voice, and I love spending this time with you guys, but it's been 90 minutes, and I think that's more than enough for the show. I will see you back here, same time, same place, next Tuesday for the Wool Circle, for those who are part of the Wool Circle. And if you are not part of the Wool Circle, why not? Go over to patreon.com/woolandspinning and jump into a free trial for a week to see if you like it. And I will see you in 2 weeks, same time, same place, for the live stream with all of you. So I look forward to that time, and I hope that you get some making done between now and then. I hope that your creative time is fulfilling, that it's time that you're able to carve out for yourself each day, and that it's time that you really enjoy. So until then, happy spinning, happy making, happy knitting, all the things, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone. A very special thank you to Elaine, Anne, Tori, Amanda, and Lisa. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you.